Hello everyone, I'm Priya Sheth and a very warm welcome to the second episode of HSBC's all-new Roundtable series, Scale to Succeed. Today, as businesses power the next phase of growth and business continuity, Your Story is proud to partner with HSBC to feature entrepreneurs and industry stalwarts to engage in inspiring conversations and share valuable insights and groundbreaking lessons from their experience. We're here today to put the spotlight on the Indian SaaS landscape, which is growing exponentially and making a mark in the global tech space. According to some reports, the Indian SaaS players are poised to fulfill 19% of the global SaaS demand by 2025. To give us the big picture, we have with us some of the smartest minds from the SaaS industry. But before that, let me quickly introduce you all to my co-moderator for this session. Please welcome Weber Gupta, who is the Director and Region Head, Business Banking, HSBC India. Over to you, Weber, to introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Priya. It's a pleasure to be in company of such an esteemed, panelists. So let me introduce to you our first panelist, Sri Krishna Ganeshan. Sri Krishna Ganeshan is co-founder Rocket Lane, and we'll talk about Rocket Lane more. Then we have Mr. Prabhu Ramchandran, founder and CEO Facilio. We have Sandeep Singh, co-founder Upscale, and we also have Siddharth Gupta, founder and co-founder of Notify Visitor. So, as I've been told that Sri Krishna right now is in US, Prabhu and I are in Chennai, Sandeep and Siddharth are in Delhi. So I think we've got a very diversified panel, which is well spread across not just India, but across globe. So I welcome all the panelists. Thank you so much for your time and your presence today.
Right. Thanks for that introduction, Weber. I want to come to you, Sri, straight away to talk a little bit about the Indian SaaS revolution, because we've seen so many Indian companies being the forefront of this revolution because, they've been helping startups with cloud-based services, with deep tech services. So just wanted your view on what the factors are for driving the growth of the Indian SaaS industry.
I think we've been building software for a while. As a nation, and business software has been something that we've been used to building. Products is probably newer to us, but I think over the last decade or so, we have quite a few companies that have emerged and succeeded on the global landscape, and that's helped more startups mushroom, where people who have been through a lot of these journeys with companies like Zoho, Freshworks, ChargeBee, etc. are now coming out to start up on their own. So I think there's been a lot of experience that was built on the SaaS product building, and that's helped a new generation of SaaS startups come up. And also the fact that people have experienced firsthand a lot of problems while building B2C companies meant that they were knowledgeable about the problems that other companies face, and hence started building capabilities to satisfy those needs, which is what became a bunch of SaaS companies today.
Right. Thanks for that, Sri. I want to come to you, Prabhu, to understand some of the key challenges that the Indian SaaS industry is facing today. What would be some of the top 3 challenges according to you?
Yeah. Thanks, Priya and Weber. Before I start on the challenges, I will just a little bit cover on the opportunities, things that are working well, and then talk about challenges from that context. So if you see the know-how to build startup and inspiration to startup is in a very good shape today in India. So there are enough success stories, and these continues to get better. And our funding ecosystem, both in terms of VCs, angels, and we are also starting to see good exits. So these are opportunities we have today. And the challenge now is how do we leverage this opportunity and build a really large global business? So from that perspective, some of the top challenges is how do we scale and grow into large companies sitting out of India, global expansion. These are like from the executionally, these are challenges like expanding globally and growing faster like Valley companies. Instead of taking like 10 years, can we do that in 3-4 years? Those are the level of challenges. And the next challenge is on the talent ecosystem. I think we have a fair level of maturity in terms of engineering, building products, but the other aspects like servicing customers, marketing, sales, these are challenges we are still sort of figuring out. And I think it is going to take some more time for us to get really good there.
Right. Thanks for that, Prabhu. I want to come to you, Siddharth, to talk a little bit about, what's been changing over the last couple of years. How have you seen these SaaS startups really evolve? And, what are some of the key factors that are inspiring young entrepreneurs to venture into this space?
Thanks. So I think over the last couple of years, the most important change which has happened is in the mindset of the enterprise, where they are now more open to adopting SaaS solutions because of the entire fintech wave. And so this has, I think, been one of the major change. What it has meant is it has opened up the entire enterprise market for SaaS disruption. Of course, to go with this is a lot of successful exits that we have seen, a lot of liquidity coming in this space. Very defined playbooks. Now, there are very defined SaaS playbooks where you can just pick up one of the playbooks and really succeed in that. And then, of course, over the last 7-8 years, there has been a pool of talent which has been created by the early companies. So the entire ecosystem, has evolved. And along with that, like I said, the biggest changes in the mindset of, if I remember from where we started, people wanted everything on-prem, and they were really not, one thing is on-prem, then they were really not comfortable working with startups, at least 7-8 years back. But now people, even large enterprises, are willing to give that opportunity to entrepreneurs, small companies, and they know that the companies can grow really fast. So I think the entire ecosystem has kind of evolved, and with access to technology, over a lot of cloud providers, standard solutions coming, out of the box. So this has all helped us, have entrepreneurs come up and pick up niche and develop solution around that.
Right. Sandeep, I want to come to you. And so that briefly alluded to the Indian talent pool. So I want to talk a little bit about what your take is on the Indian talent pool in terms of the kind of skill sets that we possess. Do you think that this is one of the defining factors or the reasons that the Indian SaaS sector is really, taking on, this huge opportunity that exists?
Right, Priya. So I think over the last decade, the rise of SaaS has dramatically induced and increased the way we are developing software in India. This paradigm shift to an on-demand subscription-based model opens a wealth of opportunities for new entrants and startups alike. And India is one market particularly well positioned to help lead the charge. There are some primary reasons I believe that India is driving this rapid growth. One of the reasons is that India plays a very unique role in the global markets. The pandemic has enabled companies to have the entire go-to-market positioning and execution from India, be it a product-led growth or an inside sales motion. We can do all of it sitting from India using India talent to acquire global customers. You just need to have the right product for the right problem. The other thing that I would highlight is, as a nation, we are learning. So is the talent. Our talent pool of domain expertise and engineers is quite large. With the remote work culture currently, one can create software from anywhere in the country, including small towns. Even though Bangalore, Chennai and Delhi are having a large portion of SaaS product companies, but then there are upcoming startups coming from tier 2, tier 3 and smaller towns. And the interesting thing is investors are quite now open to talk to these product companies, invest amount in these products to give them a chance to build it further. And this is all because of the immense talent pool that we have. And India has the second largest developer pool, over 3 million of them. And developers cover mostly the essential market for infrastructure tools, around 40% of the overall SaaS market. And like Prabhu had mentioned, however, we are quite strong in the development end, but there are other skill sets like sales and customer service where we need to cover more. One example is the role and the role of an SDR. It is very well accepted as a great role in the West, but in India, we are still catching it up. We don't have, there's a lot of training that needs to build SDRs for global markets, particularly for B2B SaaS. We have the great examples like Freshworks or the ChargeBees, Whatfix, where such talent is nurtured. And that is the kind of companies that we need more to nurture more of such talents in these skill sets as well. Now, however, we have this great talent, yet there is a big shortage of technology talent, even with large companies today, and not just SaaS startups. And then there is the great resignation which is going on now. I have never seen, more alerts than now than ever before that somebody changing a job. So there is a high attrition rate which is also impacting, even though we have a great talent pool. I've also observed large companies directly hiring from colleges, training them for 6 months in different aspects of be it technology, customer service, or sales, so that they can absorb them right away. That is what I believe. There is talent, but there is a huge shortage as well.
Right. Thanks for that, Sandeep. I believe Vaibhav has some questions for the panelists as well. Vaibhav, over to you.
Yeah, so I'll direct my first question to Shri. Shri, your company Rocketline offers a very interesting, customer onboarding experience in a product. I mean, what do you think is the importance for such software for, say, global enterprises for some of your clients? And also now, since we're talking about Indian SaaS startups now making big at the global stage, how are you taking it on as a process in terms of scaling it up across the globe?
Yeah, so I think all of us start our company from an experience that we've had that told us, hey, this is an important problem, right? And our problem discovery happened while working at Freshworks, where sometimes it was challenging to onboard some of our largest customers, right? And it would be chaotic. As a business leader running a business unit at Freshworks, I didn't have visibility into what was actually happening with some of these large customers that we are engaging with. I needed to know which spreadsheet to open or which email to be on top of to know the true status of like what's happening with an onboarding. Now, the challenge here is if we don't do a great job of onboarding a customer in SaaS, right? You're already on the back foot because, at the end of a subscription period, not only do you want the customer to renew a contract, you're being measured on something called NRR, which is net revenue retention, and you want to expand your business with each customer. So if you do a great job, if you impress the customer in that initial, let's say 3 months of getting them set up and onboarded, finding value from your product, then you can start your expansion conversation right there, right? So that's like the importance of this product that we're building, that you're likely preventing churn, you're getting the customer to value faster. Instead of 3 months, maybe with Rocketline you can do it in 2 months, and you're also setting up that partnership, that initial partnership that the customer experiences is crucial. And if you do a great job there, you're automatically increasing your chances of like a faster expansion within that customer. So I think each of us, and the reason why there's so many SaaS startups coming up is not only in SaaS, but even in B2C, there's probably people at a Swiggy or Ola who have faced specific problems while building their business, and they're now thinking, hey, every business has a similar challenge, let me go and solve it. So yeah, our story is similar as well, why we started. I think the second aspect you want to touch upon was our expansion plans. Yeah, we do have global ambitions. We did start global from day one. First few customers already came from across the globe. So we've been selling from India for the world so far, but we are also trying to hire locally in some of the global markets already, because as we want to go more upmarket with customers as well, we are looking at people who have been there, done that in other global SaaS companies to help us with those playbooks, right? So we have some playbooks that we've acquired from our time spent at Freshworks, but it's good to bring in more know-how from other places as well, with people who have seen other journeys.
Very interesting. Prabhu, coming on to you, you've been in the SaaS space now for some time, and I believe you're also headquartered in US. So taking the cue from the global perspective which you bring to the table, how do you think enterprises outside India are looking at Indian startups? I mean, how difficult is it for you to convince somebody outside India to onboard you with them?
So we'll have to see this as a common problem. It's not I wouldn't say it is India specific problem today. Building in one country, selling global, that's a general one, or maybe broader building in a developing world, from a developing world to selling to developed countries. So we are not seeing that much of India specific concern as such, but the way we have to look at is, I'll try to segregate this into like two categories. If a startup is building a horizontal SaaS solution, that is providing solutions to run the core business of any business. You're selling SaaS for sales teams, support teams, HR function, finance function. So these are the horizontal SaaS. And this market is pretty mature. It's at least 20 plus years old, and customers across the globe, they're used to buying solution. If the solution is good, they're used to buying from any part of the world. So there is lesser and lesser challenges there for an Indian SaaS company to sell globally. And in fact, there are a few advantages if you're selling specifically to SMB mid-market. Operating in India, the kind of know-how, talent, and little bit of cost efficiencies we have, it's becomes an advantage. But the challenge comes in a vertical SaaS, where you are touching the core business. For example, you're building SaaS solutions for healthcare that will be used by the medical staff, or for an industrial customer that will be used by staffs on the floor, or like us, like we are building SaaS for real estate. These are mostly traditional markets. They are new to, in many cases, they are new to modern software itself. So these customers are very cautious on whom to choose. They are very cautious about failures and all of that. So this is where it becomes challenging to build a company globally and scale, grow, and all of that. So if somebody is building a vertical SaaS, they have to think through this problem of global expansion from day one. And there, the convincing of customer, it's a mix of few things, but core is the product. If you have a irresistible product, and that product enables you to make customers take risk, it's very mouth-watering for the customer to take risk and go with, like, they don't mind whether you're remote and all of that. So that is the core anchor. Build a really, really good product that is multiple times better than what they are being used to. And then start from an initial day, start focusing on how are we systematically going to support that customer. That the customer support, customer service is very, very important, particularly when you're building for these vertical SaaS. How are you thinking through local teams or partners? These are some aspects that we need to start really focusing. Another area where we are thinking later is the marketing and branding aspects, where you have to start thinking about how as a company we are perceived by the customers. Are we stable? Are we mature? So are we the challenger who's emerging out, so that you are attracting the early adopters in the market? You cannot go and start selling from day one to the pessimist customers who want to be really, really safe. You have to really attract your early adopters early stage. So that's where the marketing comes into play. So I would say the playbook here is really, really good product. That is the anchor. And then start focusing on support service And in parallel, you have to think through about the branding, marketing aspects.
Fantastic. Some great insights, Prabhu, from you. Moving on to Siddharth, to you. We've been hearing a lot about this focus on need to create omni-channel strategies to enhance customer experience. Your company, Notify Visitors, is offering a very interesting proposition and very important solution in this space. Can you throw some more light on the significance of market automation for customer engagement in today's scenario?
Yeah. Thanks, Weber, for putting up this question. And as you rightly mentioned, as the world is moving digital, remote, and at a much faster pace than anyone envisioned in past. So omni-channel strategy is key to acquiring customers, retaining them, and giving them a very good experience. And it has to be personalized at scale, at localized level. Now, in today's world, attention span of anyone visiting your website just to know about you is probably less than 10 seconds. So how do you, capture a digital footprint of that customer and, show him the right message? Somebody coming from Chennai, from Times of India, or somebody coming from Delhi and coming through organically, straight through rather than any paid channel. So how do you identify as if you are a salesman sitting there and somebody visiting your booth? How do you make the same experience go digital for any anonymous person visiting your website is the key to really scale. Imagine if there was nobody sitting in the store, somebody walks in, just looks around and goes. So there is no sale which has happened, right? And vis-a-vis somebody there assisting him. So that's the experience, we have to replicate through smart communications, personalized one-to-one across all channels, be it across publishers, email, SMS, WhatsApp, through bot assistants, understanding cohorts of customers visiting. So all of that intelligence is really key, from starting to scaling, and it can really bring down your cost of acquisition. For something which is, say $10 or $20 per acquisition could be, maybe 10% of that with this smart. And that is the key difference you will see. The businesses who will do really well and businesses who, just keep doing stuff without looking at the data. So that is, I think, the key pillar for any organization. And I think we are really fortunate to be in this space for some time and, being there at the right time. And we are helping some, from small to large businesses automate their entire communication. And this is, I think, would be the key for any, B2C company or direct to customer business.
Amazing. Sandeep, moving on to you. You are also in a similar automation space, but largely, I think, for the sales purposes. I would like to understand challenges you faced while building such an incredible SaaS product. What kind of difficulties you encountered?
Right. So I think at an early stage, the biggest constraining factors for any startup and even us as a SaaS company is how rapidly can we drive growth, and the pace at which we continuously acquire customers. And in the early days, a lot of this essentially gets down to how many resources in terms of dollar and people you have deployed to drive growth. The other thing about specifically Upscale, the sales engagement platform, is that we believe that most B2B organizations will augment traditional sales playbooks with artificial intelligence and guided selling solutions. We will no more be dependent on some kind of fixed playbooks. We'll be mostly employing dynamic playbooks wherein the product will guide you, prompt you on the best practices to do today or versus this week and that week from a lot of data. So the challenge for us is that we need to have a lot of customer data to build such models to be accurate and to help customers drive growth from dynamic workflows and also cater different use cases on top of different companies having different average selling price or no market maturity where they are in the journey. The typical sales cycle, how long does it takes to convert a customer? Depending on that, what is the sales motion that you should be having? What is the kind of team strength that you should be having? What are you chasing in terms of numbers, etc.? And ultimately, what is the kind of TAM that you are addressing? So from a solutions based approach to productizing such a framework is a kind of challenge which we know we are addressing for our customers. Apart from this, since we also spoke about the talent abundance in India, we wanted to specifically make sure that the early employees who join us believe in the vision of sales engagement playbook. So like every SaaS company, learning and evolving every day from customer interactions plays a very important role. So figuring out those technology and growth hustlers is very important.
Interesting. I believe, Priya, you have few more things to chat with.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Vaibhav. I want to come to you, Sri, to talk a little bit about what the role of the government is when it comes to supporting the startup community in the SaaS space. Do you think there's enough support?
I think there is good support, I think, overall from, for startups. For SaaS, I would say there are some things that are harder. Used to be harder, has become easier. Like collecting subscription revenue was impossible when I was doing my last startup. Now it's possible, but still, I think even for outside India companies, collecting from Indian startups has become harder than before, with some recent changes in terms of how billing needs to be only INR billing and so on. But that's not like something unique to startups from India. I think everyone faces a challenge in working with those regulations. But other than that, I think there's we are a globally headquartered company with a India subsidiary. So I think maybe not the best qualified to answer the question on like what challenges or what way the government can do more for SaaS companies from India to give that equal footing.
Right. Interesting perspective out there. Prabhu, a little bit about what the future of the SaaS space in India will look like to you. Maybe if there's a defining trend that you're foreseeing.
Yeah, sure. So we know that the early SaaS companies were all SMB, mid-market, horizontal SaaS, and that will continue to grow. The Freshworks, those, we will continue to see a lot of vertical SaaS companies emerging out of India, making it really big globally. So like SaaS for the industries, healthcare, those kind of very business specific verticals. And also next big area is enterprise SaaS, going after large businesses, serving large businesses. That's where the next big opportunity is. We have the SAPs of the world, IBMs, Oracles, and how does the modern new age SaaS companies come and play there? So that is going to be next big opportunity. We are already seeing that a lot of enterprise SaaS companies that are really doing well out of India. And other trend we'll also see is small niche teams making huge impacts. There could be like bunch of smaller companies like 10, 20, 30 member companies solving one really like one specific problem, but becoming like ultra profitable, ultra efficient, like how WhatsApp was built by small number of people. That will also emerge, and it might even become like a cottage industry where tier 2, tier 3 cities, a bunch of people solving very specific problem, making it big. And there is also a lot of exit acquisition partnerships happening. So we will see that there could be like a lot of smaller SaaS companies solving very, very specific problems, which is like very good. We have one vertical SaaS, enterprise SaaS, and then this cottage industry like smaller SaaS companies coming and making it really big.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Prabhu. Vaibhav, I have a few more questions, but I'll let you take the next one, and then maybe I'll just ask my final question to all the panelists out there.
So my question is now not to any specific person. This is anyone can answer. I come from a banking industry. What do you expect from your bankers to do for you? How can we make your life more simpler? Is availability of finance an issue, or how do we make us more accessible and scale up your global aspirations? So just some few thoughts for us as well. Anyone?
Yeah, I can pick up.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah. So from a banking, the opportunities or challenges we see is most SaaS companies are going to be global. Bank can help from early days on, like just going global. There is a lot of these things on banking. Just even some countries, just creating bank accounts and operating itself is a huge challenge. So if banks can partner, help scaling globally from a basic business banking perspective. And there are also other interesting areas where the banks can help startups in terms of the like how can the banks even understand early stage, mid stage, advanced stage startups, cash flows, customer revenues, and how that can be simplified in terms of both getting these and how do we spend, how do we invest. So that is the next area. Like how can banks understand the working of startups from a business point of view and play a supporting role, not just lending alone, but even simply understanding like how SaaS works, what is a cash flow, and what kind of challenges we need in terms of receiving money from different currencies. So those areas, I think there is definitely a way to for the banks and startups to work closely.
Okay. Yes, Siddharth.
Yeah. To add to that, I think Prabhu, mentioned about understanding cash flows and how the business operates. I think there are some startups coming up based on revenue-based financing, but still the interest rates, over there are pretty steep. So, just like end customer lending in terms of business lending, if there could be a credit line specific to SaaS, and that learning if you can get from multiple SaaS solution providers in terms of the health of a business, in terms of key metrics, and how debt can be provided maybe at a much more eased rate of interest, and it opens up an alternate line of credit apart from VCs, etc. Because a lot of the SaaS businesses actually, what Prabhu mentioned as cotton industry kind of SaaS companies would not require outside capital because they tend to be cash efficient, but they may be needing working capital which could be financed based on the understanding of the business. So I think this is one key learning that can be really profitable for the banks as well, and is something that can be worked on.
No, thanks. Some good points have come. Thank you for the feedback.
Right, Vaibhav, before I go to the panelists, I have one question for you. How is a bank like HSBC supporting the whole SaaS industry?
Okay, the fact is that we're having a session in SaaS shows how focused we are on this industry. In fact, if you were to personally ask me, my vision is banker to every SaaS. Okay, that's what I envisage HSBC's role as. But I think taking cue from both what Prabhu and Siddharth mentioned, in fact, we have been doing a lot of work, a lot of study in last 1 or 2 years in terms of understanding the requirements of this sector. I think Prabhu did allude to the fact that, and we have created specialists in our team who understands this business. Okay, frankly speaking, in last couple of months, we have spent a lot of time in understanding the sector, what is the behavior, what kind of requirement. So what we have been able to figure it out is, as Prabhu mentioned, was how do we scale it up and help SaaS startups globally. I think one biggest advantage of HSBC today we have from India is that we are a truly global bank and we bring that network to startup. Historically, this network of international banking was only limited to few large corporates. We are now scaling it up to startup. In fact, I lead the India-US corridor, and I almost have daily calls with my colleagues in US to support some of these startups who are setting up shop in US or in Singapore. We have dedicated team, as I said. We have created a special proposition, and I think Siddharth did mention about pricing aspect. We are absolutely transparent in our forex pricing, and we have a very strong regulatory practice. And I think one thing which I would also mention, how are we structured? See, we all are. I am part of the commercial banking team. Most of the startup verticals in some of the other banks form part of the retail banking. And the kind of expertise me and my team bring to the table is purely from a corporate perspective, not from a retail banking perspective. Okay, and the entire operational support, which also comes along with our expertise and knowledge, is also corporate experience. Okay, and that to me is a big differentiator as compared to what's the offering is there in the normal market. And we have now moved not just only from the banking. We have tied up with say with certain platforms to support SaaS startups. So we have tied up with Zoho, we have tied up with AWS, we have tied up with Global, Google. So now what we are offering, not just only banking, but bundled products along with our banking services. So this is something we call as a beyond banking initiative. So I am personally quite excited about this whole SaaS, evolving in India. In fact, we have these weekly calls in our own teams to understand what new players have come in the system, what kind of things we are doing. So a big focus for us on startup and especially on the SaaS startup ecosystem.
Right. Thanks for that, Vaibhav. I think the excitement that's there around the SaaS space is clearly reflected by the kind of gathering we have on this panel as well. I want to ask all of you panelists one question, and if you could quickly summarize what it really means. So my question to all of you is if you could share your vision for what the future of the Indian SaaS industry will look like. So a quick point from each of you. Let's begin with you, Sri.
I think we're going to see leaders in every category in which products are being built, SaaS products are being built, because I think we're leveling up on every function. I think probably an earlier generation of SaaS companies would build great product but not necessarily have the best brand building or marketing muscle, versus as we evolve, I think we're building that muscle to tell our stories better, to dream big, dream global from day one. So I think we're going to see every horizontal SaaS category and vertical SaaS category that's being built see leaders from India. So that's I think a good vision to have, that we should be like number one, number two products in every category.
Well, thanks for that, Sandeep. Let's come to you.
Yeah, sure. So as Sri has mentioned that we are going to have leaders in different verticals, we can't stress that enough on the B2B domain expertise in India that we have. And in all the conversations we have had, the level of understanding that exists in the Indian product industry about enterprises, individual processes, workflows is just phenomenal. And I think that is a huge advantage. Several pieces of research and reports in the last few years have concluded that SaaS is currently about close to $200 to $300 billion market. Depending on the forecast, I think we are going to double it by 2025 and continue to grow to 800 billion by revenue in the next decade. And the kind of job opportunities and value creation that is happening in the Indian SaaS space is immense. We have recently seen those examples, and we've started to believe now. In appraisal conversations, employees are not asking for cash hikes. They are asking for ESOP hikes. That's the stage where we are in the Indian SaaS ecosystem, where we have seen the success of Freshworks and other companies, how ESOP buybacks are happening. So it is a clear demonstration of value creation in terms of job opportunities, and the value that we are creating is immense, and this is only going to grow.
Absolutely. Let's come to you, Siddharth.
Yeah, so I'll keep it very simple. I think I see SaaS companies being global product companies and enjoy one of the largest shares of export pie out of India, and create a lot of wealth and value for Indians and Indian ecosystem.
Very short and sweet and very well said. Let's come to you, Prabhu.
Yeah. So that's what Indian SaaS, it has the opportunity to create companies like we have seen Microsoft's, Oracle's, SAP's of the world coming out of US and Europe. The SaaS will create opportunities to create such a kind of companies. The impact of that, I think we are already starting to see. So there is a lot of talk about resignation. I see that as a very positive thing to happen, because that is the value that the SaaS brings in terms of its high margin product business, ability to pay well for employees, and that creates so much of ripple effects on the economy, quality of life, and all of that. So future is very bright.
Absolutely. We are all dealing with a very bright future for the SaaS space, and we can just expect the space to grow tremendously from here, taking into account all the perspectives that all of you have put out. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us on this panel. Vaibhav and I are really, really pleased to have hosted this panel together, and look forward to many such engaging discussions going forward.